Ed, and thank you for being here again on Global TV Talk Show. We are joined by note takers and AI, and we're
Mhm.
in the Coronado Bay, and that's the Coronado Bridge in San Diego at a period that was a time frame about a month ago. And we're looking south towards Mexico, and that's a real sky. That's not a painting. I was having a particularly gorgeous day, so I snapped away. Ron Cooper, the Cooper culture is featured again in this long-running series we have. Uh, the cooperculture.com is where you can meet Ron and Marty Cooper. They're really good people and very street smart and accomplished. Ron, you mentioned that the topic today is very special and very timely about civil discord. And take it from here, please.
Thank you, Ed. And I do appreciate you, Ed, featuring this opportunity. Ken, you're a great spokesman for the topic today. But what, from my perspective, is very applicable, and I want to just make an overarching statement. Nothing I say today is intended to be political. You might discern something from my values and so forth, but it is not my intention at all to be political, to be divisive. Whether you are left, middle, right, ideologically, to me is not relevant in the context of the central values of which I'm speaking. It is applicable in discerning maybe your cultural reference, your perspective, and so forth. But Ed and Ken, most recently last night, and the news is just getting around that 5 policemen in York County, Pennsylvania, possibly 3 hours north of us, were together issuing, from what I understand, a summons to a person in a house. And by the pictures I saw, the person lived in a rural area, and that's not relevant. But what is relevant is the person inside the house, and from my perspective, and it could be inaccurate, he was operating alone inside the house, chose to shoot at the 5 policemen, killed 3 of the 5, and severely injured the remaining 2. He was later either shot or committed suicide. And what I'm saying is perhaps 7, 8 hours old, so it may not be entirely accurate. But my point is, this person apparently thought the most appropriate action to take would be a retribution against the police. I do not know any of the background of what the summons was about. And from my perspective and what we're talking about this morning, it is not particularly relevant. Of note as well, very recently, it's been in the news, in the U.S. news, Charlie Turk was assassinated, and that occurred just a few days ago. A person who, we're learning, vehemently disagreed with his values, chose to seek retribution and exterminate his life. A lady, Ukrainian refugee, was on the subway in Charlotte, North Carolina, and a person behind her chose to put a knife through her neck. As is my understanding, he stabbed her about 3 times, and she later succumbed to that, died. And the videotape indicated 3 to 4 people, it seems, walked past her and did not provide any sort of assistance, aid, anything. And I think, I don't know how you can do that. And there are several other instances, and the fact that I'm not mentioning those very specifically right now does not in any way mean the people who have suffered various injuries are of lesser importance, lesser significance. I don't mean that at all. I am referencing, from my perspective, the most recent 3 that have occurred, but there are too many, my opinion, Ken and Ed, that are victims of, targets of what appears from my perspective to be our diminishing the value of life. It appears we have lost, or maybe no longer even care about, civil debate. And when I say debate, okay, let's just put it into context. We have differing opinions based on perspective, culture, whatever it is that forms our current perceptions. We appear to have lost the, or as I say, maybe no longer care about having civil discourse. I personally welcome conversations with those who have a differing perspective than me. I've said it here before. I'll say it again. I know how people like me think. I'm very interested in learning how those from a different perspective, those of a different lifestyle, those of a different culture. I'm very interested in learning what you think, but also why you think. And my hope is we can keep this discussion on a factual basis, not emotional, to where we end up yelling, screaming, and so forth with each other, maybe even getting to the point where we want to bring a fist to each other and do damage to each other, physical damage, physical hurt. Um, Ed and Ken, we've mentioned in this program before that one of my deepest values is I never want to intentionally denigrate you. It's possible I say something that it could be a micro insult, the various terms put to it, that maybe I said something that bothers you, and I didn't even know it at the time. But I would hope that I have a relationship with each one of you, the people in our audience, to where you feel free to ask me, Ron, what did you mean by that? And if I said something that might be offensive, I hope we can have a civil discourse and I can tell you exactly what I meant, and we can have a very meaningful conversation, after which we can, if not literally, at least figuratively, have lunch, dinner together, break bread together, sometime an expression that's used. But my hope is I will never denigrate you to the point where you feel that I have diminished your life, your value, anything of that nature, but rather I'm a firm believer in our Declaration of Independence, in the equality of each person whom God created. And so, Ed and Ken, that's a brief treatise, so to speak, of my thoughts of some of the current events. It just seems that some people have gotten to the point where we will settle this, whatever discussion, whatever my feelings are toward you, by putting you at the end of a knife, the end of a gunpoint, something like that. I am having this conversation right now because I feel a call to action. I want to be a catalyst to help people overcome anger that might result in some sort of physical discord, but rather we can, through civil conversation, learn about and through each other. And Ken, you're a master at terms that can maybe unintentionally, maybe even intentionally divide us, such as you did, you represent. Well, immediately, as soon as I say you, that means we're in opposite corners. My perception, terms such as that. But if we can be very particularly aware of things, terms, feelings, facial expressions, body language that can emit a meaning that may be unintentional, but I am all about having civil discourse, even though we vehemently disagree, if that were to be the case, but we'll never allow that to get to the point where we will physically do harm to each other. Ken and Ed, I'll stop with I'm being on a diatribe, a soapbox, so to speak, But I'm very interested in having a discourse, a dialogue that I hope can inspire other people to overcome any emotional anger they may have. And let's have a civil discourse. Ken and Ed, I'm going to stop at this point.
Well, I thank you very much for that, and I appreciate you and your strength, uh, and the fact that you got the guts to do this. So, when listening to you, and based upon something that I read the other day, um, is there or should there be a religious revival?
Well, and then I'm going to tell you, Ken, Marty and I are faith-based, and that can take on a lot of different terms. But Marty and I believe in the Bible, the God of the Bible, not a fictitious person, but the God of the Bible who created the heavens, the earth. We believe in the Bible, so that is the basis of our faith, and we believe that to be the source of absolute truth. And yes, I do believe there is a religious revival that's happening right now. And let's just say the term religion can take on a lot of different meanings. Let's just say that Marty and I believe, we hope there is a biblical revelation that is there a central truth of which God wrote to us? Marty and I believe yes to that. And I know right there can be a controversial statement with some people, but I would hope we could have an honest dialogue about that.
Ken?
Wow. I remember in growing up, my dad always said, above all of this, above all the religions, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, there is one God over all of this. And that's how we were brought up. And I think the religious teachings, regardless of the religions, are based so primarily on being honest and faithful and true and honoring others. You look at the 10 Commandments. To me, to live a life of faith is to live a good, just, honest, fair life. And that includes listening to others, respecting others, caring for the opinions of others. It's interesting if someone verbally attacks you. I was talking with a rabbi about this, and she had such an interesting response. If someone tosses an insult her way, rather than getting into it and arguing or debating, she'll just go, ouch. And that stops the whole conversation. What did I say? What did I do that it would be taken this way? And I kind of like that. I think that's kind of it's a friendly way. It's non-antagonistic. It's really saying to the person, what in the world are you saying? How dare, but no, just ouch. I kind of like it. So if someone does say that, and I know my wife will use it, not when I say something, because I don't say things that merit an ouch from her, but if it does happen, and it stops the person in their tracks. I grew up where disagreement, a mindset in which disagreement is fine, it's healthy, it's normal, it's good. We don't all want to walk around simply nodding. I read a book about Harry Truman's presidency. His cabinet, by design, he brought in people that did not necessarily agree with him. That's how we get better decisions. If we honestly listen to others, instead of everyone just going along with how we believe, we get nowhere. It's just what Ron is saying. I want to know more about people who disagree with me and why and how and where they come from. And maybe we both can learn by a dialogue. Never, ever by engaging in violence. That doesn't carry us anywhere. That takes us back to some primitive state of mind and state of the earth where things are not accomplished positively, constructively, or creatively.
And Ken and Ed, I'll say that a lot of today's animus relationships seem to be, if not literally totally rooted in political differences. Let's just say that there are at the government level some news broadcasts profile various statements, arguments, and so forth, and it's easy, real easy, to align ourselves with one or more people, say, yep, that's what I believe in. And man, then the words start to go out and you believe in and you did and so forth. And it's real easy to get caught up in the emotion of all of this. I would hope that we listening to this show, this discussion right now, we can be above the emotionalism, and it's certainly fine for me for to have a conversation where literally, figuratively, we can pound our fist on the table and man, I believe strongly in, but we just cannot leave this conversation literally hating each other, having discord with each other, because I don't know where that may go. Maybe not between the three of us, but I don't know how someone else may interpret that, and they are emotionally unstable. And I'm very aware of mental illness and so forth. And so I would hope, again, I'm repeating myself, I would hope that those of us listening to this can engaging in conversation with others can be appropriately aware of other conversations, emotions, and so forth, that I would hope don't go to the extreme of anger to where there's retribution. But if we can be appropriately aware, hopefully we have the courage to engage and hopefully, let's say, de-escalate any feelings that might otherwise result in some sort of retribution.
So I happen to know that your county is in the heart of the Amish region.
Yes.
So hearing about this is really a shocker.
And I will tell you, Ed, at this point, I don't know if what play the Amish may have had, maybe none. It just happens to be in the heart of Amish country. And so I don't know. I don't know the details yet. But what is so incredibly disturbing to me is that we seem to have devalued human life. And whether I hurt you or not, or just doesn't matter. But seeking my own satisfaction appears to be greater than your life and being able to express your life, your value, and so forth. It's very distressing to me. But again, to me, this is a call to action for me personally.
Uh, so in the workplace, Ken, how would this be handled?
To me, big picture is the importance of listening, not hearing. We can hear things, truly listening and engaging. And that means not immediately forming my argument as soon as you say a point, but listening, trying to understand what this person is saying, where this person is coming from, and respecting that. It's not that my beliefs or my attitudes are somehow higher and prevalent over theirs, but to truly listen. Are we actually engaging and listening what others are saying? Recognizing that we are going to have different attitudes, beliefs, ideas, suggestions, and that's fine. That's part of being a human. We're not all simply going to line up in lockstep and agree with each other on everything. If it ever gets to violence in the workplace, that's an immediate call for action by management, because that is 100% unacceptable under any circumstances. And we talk about giving people warnings and taking step by step and coddling them and using a PIP and all, but there are behaviors, bringing a weapon to work, coming to work under, whether intoxicated or on drugs, any act of violence. That's a different path. That's a game ender. Okay, engage in violence at work. We're not going to sit there and coddle. You shouldn't have slugged that person in the face. Be serious. Violence at work, in the workplace, is 100% unacceptable. It is not a way to solve anything. And that applies outside the workplace. It doesn't. All it does is bring us further down and bring us down a path where no one really wants to be. But yeah, listening is critical. Just another tie-in, not that we're going rabbinical today, but I received an email from a rabbi in South America whom I've known for many years. And he had said This is the time of year to listen. And when the shofar blows, the honor is not to blow the shofar, it's to hear it. And the symbolism is, are we listening? And that is so important. Talk about religious messages. And that's really part of what life is about. When we listen, we learn, we grow, we develop, not throwing up a barrier. And to me, that really, if you will, resonated. No play on words intended, but it really did.
Ken, you're right on target, and listening is an important art. And I want to give you an example that listening, active listening, did I understand what you said and I interpreted what you said, Ken, to be and so forth? Did I understand you correctly? But then the other part of this is when we speak and the other person, the person with whom we're speaking, cuts you off, that tells me you don't care what I'm trying to say. And so I'm not dominating that I'm going to take 15 minutes to take what could be expressed in 12 seconds or so. But when you cut me off, and it happened to be not more than 3 or 4 days ago, that I'm trying to explain what the result of a transaction, and this person continuously cut me off. And I said, I want to ask you to do something, please. Would you allow me the next 38 seconds to explain something where you are not talking? Can you do that? And so I expressed it pretty much that way. And so I'm not here to deride the person, but you're cutting me off, which tells me you don't want to hear anything I'm saying. You don't care a whit about what I'm trying to say. And so, Ken, that's one of the, be willing to listen. And so, am I interpreting you correctly? And then, if we need to help that person reframe a problem statement, at least be conciliatory to where we're willing to listen and help achieve the greater good of whatever it is we're speaking of. I do want to listen to any complaints you have, but maybe I can help you reframe whatever complaint you have, and I do want you to offer a solution as well. And so to me, that's a cooperative type of discussion. And I know some places are not of that type of culture, but I would hope we can get to that point where through civil discourse, I want to hear what your solution is, proposed solution. But I would hope that you would have come up with a proposed solution. So again, that's just some of my thoughts about civil discourse.
This is off the wall, but which means it's just a thought that just breezed
Yep.
my head.
Sure.
Then it's stuck. Um, we have political enemies. Is it possible that some of this sudden violence, spurts of violence, is somehow orchestrated or enabled by foreign intelligence interference in American life?
Well, I think it could be, Ed. Yes, we certainly have hackers that, and how much is a hacker putting, oh, let's just say, inputs on X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, and a thought just came to mind. I want to try to word it such that it's not misinterpreted, but I'll just ask rhetorically, is it possible I could affect the way you think, your opinion, maybe the way you vote? Can I influence your actions through social media and otherwise putting information out there that quite honestly is tainted, or I mean, it's very definitely one-sided. That's my opinion. But can I capture your attention to where, yep, I can cause you to take an action? Ed, I think I can. And I will tell you, different things come to mind. I don't even want to say what it is because somebody could misinterpret, but I do think it's very definitely possible that different things can be influenced through social media, and I can influence your thought process by feeding to you what you read.
Ken?
Yeah, I couldn't really comment whether it's foreign governments or not. Certainly, as Ron said, it could be. But we do know that particularly among younger generations, they get the bulk of their news from social media. They're not doing a whole lot of reading of the major newspapers, not even looking at so-called nightly news, but rather going to sources that they regard as reliable in social media. And what happens is it's very easy for them to get very stilted information and to come out with views and opinions that are not really based on reality, but rather are very much opinion based and forming that kind of information for them that then goes out and leads them to engage in actions and behaviors that might not be in their best interest, the best interest of those around them or in the community. News today does not mean what it meant when we were growing up. It is far more, if you will, editorialized. And as a result, people seek out news that filters and feeds into their previous and existing beliefs rather than reaching out to hear conflicting opinions and thoughts. And it very easy can become prey to that and build and go down a path that's not in their own best interest. Then we also have in America, we know there's a mental health crisis with a lot of people that are in real need of help and aren't getting it. And as a result, it becomes easier for them to engage in destructive, fully destructive behaviors and putting lives definitely at risk, including their own. And that's something that also needs to be addressed as well. And we need to be, as much as we can, aware of that and focused into it if we see, whether around us, whether in work or in personal situations, people whose behaviors are crying for help, actually, and for us to take action to try to help them get down that path as well.
Ed, I will say that, recently Xi Jinping, Kim Jong un, Vladimir Putin met. And there are some who reported that as, well, Trump, it was the topic of that. And now I seem to be getting political. I don't intend to. But I'm the kind of person, what is factually correct in terms of reporting? What was the person's motive of doing whatever he or she said? I don't know that we know that because I don't know that we can get to the source. Now, many of us would say, well, my source of information is, well, okay, was that factually correct? I don't know. Was it filtered through someone else? And, I don't know. And so I know with certainty, I have spoken with many people who say, well, this, that, and the other happened because of, and then, okay, well, what's the source of your facts? And so I want to be the person who knows the facts, and I don't know that I always can, that I go to wherever I can. I hope to be reliable, but I do know that many emotions right now are along the ideological spectrum of wherever you are ideologically. If recent events, people, statements, and so forth align with you ideologically, yep, you may agree, say, yep, that is definitely right, that's factually correct, and so forth, and of course, just the opposite. But I would hope, again, we can have civil discourse. Can you tell me what the source of your facts are, and so forth and so on. And again, irrespective of whether you agree or disagree, I would hope we could have a civil discourse without wanting to take action against you. And I just, again, I feel like I'm repeating myself almost ad nauseum, but I just feel we've got to the point where, nope, I'm going to take some drastic action, whatever, because I so vehemently disagree with you. I'm at the point of anger. And so I just believe, and we've heard it numerous times, we've got to tone down the rhetoric. Yep, that's a statement that's being made. But what are we going to do within our families? What are we going to do in the workplace? What are we going to do in our neighborhoods to help and be a catalyst to tone down the rhetoric to where we can have civil discourse? That, I believe, is where we are, and I don't want dialogue that's at the national or international level adversely affect me. Just come on, folks. Let's be civil with each other.
Yeah, I agree with you completely on that, Ron. And there are facts, and there are facts, and there are facts, and who knows what's really a fact and what's fiction. I remember when JFK was assassinated, and it was all of this the lone gun theory, and Lee Harvey Oswald did it. And then a book came out right in that period called Rush to Judgment by Mark Lane, where he brought in all sorts of additional facts saying, actually, it wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald, and here's what happened, and here's what it was, and it was a different weapon. And that point, that to me was the first point, wow, I thought we knew this. I thought we were given the facts, and we weren't. And I agree with you all the way through today. Facts are oftentimes just people's thinking of what they should be. Sometimes it's fiction, sometimes it's intentionally misleading. And all that really means is that we have to listen more to each other. You know, as you said, gee, that's interesting. Where did those points come from? Because what I read was this, or what I heard, and to talk about it, not that, well, I can't stand you, I hate you, I'm going to engage in violence against you, and going down that horribly dark path. But yeah, facts today, now with social media, they're all over the place on every single issue of what's going on anywhere in the world. There are all sorts of facts that are in absolute contradiction with each other. We need to recognize that, be very careful about the facts and quotes that we do rely on, because they might not be the truth.
I totally agree. And in the case of the Robertson, Charlie Kirk. What was that, Marty?
Tyler Robinson. Yeah.
Tyler Robinson, that by the accounts I have read, he was raised in a conservative family, but he became, I'm going to use the term radicalized, and I'm not trying to be political, not my point at all, but he just believed that because he and Charlie Turk disagree on things, the best way to settle these disagreements is to stop Charlie Turk from having the forum where he's addressing college students, and that was his way of talking about his stance, his belief. And Tyler, for reasons that he chose, I believe, chose to go let's say a left turn, if that term can be used, left turn from his family. And so he made a choice, it would seem, and I'm not here a psychologist and don't know Tyler any more than that, but just things I've read indicate to me he chose to go a different direction from the way he was raised. And so that was his choice, it seems. And there may be a lot more to it that I don't know, but that's my perception at this point.
Just a word, the last name is Kirk, Kirk.
Did I say Turk?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my
but
God!
no, that's all right. But
It
I
is
thought
Kirk,
in
and I
my
know that.
role as moderator here.
Oh, thank you, I appreciate
Oh
that.
yeah. Okay. So what about the murder, was seemingly senseless murder of the CEO of United Health, walking to a meeting in Manhattan in rush hour, into the New York Hilton and pop some
And Ken, that
kid. This
or
is weird.
yeah, that's another very recent example that he felt that Luigi Mangione, I think it is, felt that no, he needs to take matters in his own hands, and he has his beliefs about healthcare and what the healthcare industry, big pharma, and so forth was doing, and he would take matters into his own hands. The judge, I think it was just yesterday, made a ruling, and there are those outside the courtroom who were ecstatic. about the ruling that favored Luigi Mangione. And so, but this is the kind of thing that can happen that, there are groups of people who believe one way and a different way, but the retribution seems to be if I don't get my way, I will seek retribution. My perspective, and I'll get off the bandwagon here.
Well, just from the news account that I read, the judge, one of the charges that the government brought against this killer was the act itself, aggravated, whatever the right term is, um, was meant to stir up the population against big pharma, big medicine, uh, as an act of treason or terrorism or something. And that's what the judge said. That's going to be hard to prove. Let's take that out and just deal with the straight charge of murder.
Yes. And so,
Well, that made sense, but it came across as weird.
yes. And
Yeah.
so again, this one person felt that nope, I'm going to act on. He knew that he's not alone in his opinion of big pharma, medicine, and so forth. But hey, we can take care of a lot of this by eliminating this CEO. And so then now we might get into the topic of what is hate speech and so forth and so on, differences of that and so forth. But I mean, when is it ever right to terminate a person's life in the way it was done? And now I know that can invoke the topic of capital punishment and so forth, and we can be over the map with this, but still, can we have a civil discourse about this? But can we agree that killing somebody at the gunpoint, and he was, from the videotape that I saw, the CEO didn't even have the opportunity to defend himself. It was a shot from the back of the head. And so, I mean, that just by visual or by a verbal description, visually, that just seems to be a very cowardice act that you can't even confront the person. So, again, that's now I'm getting maybe expressing my own beliefs.
No, but you're absolutely right. To me, it's compounded by the fact that there are many people out there, relatively speaking, that regard Mangione as some kind of hero. And that to me is so sick and so disgusting and so wrong, it practically defies description. How in the world someone can think that, oh, he's doing a public good by doing this. This was murdering a company leader. Fine, take your business somewhere else, or go and write letters to your congressperson. But for God's sake, how can you rejoice in someone who engaged in that action? That just defies everything that I can stand for. And how you want to talk with someone about that? Why in the world are you supporting this murderer? I'm just curious. How sick does that have to be? At the same time, I'm willing to listen to someone who supports them. I think they're 100% wrong, out of touch, uneducated, uninformed, just missing life. But I'd still be willing to listen. But I just from reading about people that can get behind that kind of action is just so far off the scale to me that I don't know how to comprehend it. I really don't.
Ken and Ed, here's where I'm coming from. And this is a great example, and I know I'm defining myself in what I'm about to say, but I'm going to believe there was maybe some leading indicators about Luigi Mangione. Had we engaged him in conversation over some period of time, he may have said something that, well, that seems a little off color. Or, I mean, can I detect some anger within you about big pharma, medicine, so forth and so on, that might lead me to think, well, can we talk about this just a little bit further, a little bit more, so I can learn what it is your feelings really are? Now, Ken and Ed, I know what I'm saying requires a lot of courage. That and some people may say, well, why don't you just back off? You're being too personal or so forth. But if we are appropriately situationally aware to where red flags, alarm bells, whatever you want to call it, are kind of triggered, you think, I just hope you, whomever you is, would not take aggressive action to follow through on some of the comments it seems you're making. And so, would we have the courage to engage a person to that level to where we would, I would hope, appropriately discern, not label or anything of that nature, but I just sense that there's some of us who are saying, nope, that's just too personal. I don't have the courage to, or it's inappropriate for me to delve further, or whatever the reason is. And then some cases, the end result happens, and you think, gosh, I just thought I heard something that was just a little bit off color, but I did not have the courage, didn't seem to be appropriate to pursue that. Nope, that's way too personal and so forth. Again, I'm on a bandwagon, but I want to do what I can to inspire people to engage appropriately with other people. And so, can we maybe head off some of this adverse reaction that we're seeing? And I just choose to believe we might be able to.
And again, if a person does not want to go one-on-one to someone they have some concerns about, it's also possible, not that I'm a big advocate of this, to have what one would call an intervention. Let's 3 or 4 friends, we get together. Hey, are you concerned about X? I think he's, and we all sit down and say, hey, we're listening to you. We're concerned about you and we want to help you. Tell us what's going on. Maybe this is the time for you to think about getting some professional help. And we're only here because we love you and we don't want to see you go down a road that's going to take you where you really don't ever want to be. And we're here strictly out of friendship. What we're seeing concerns us. Can we help you? And so you don't have to go, if you're concerned about one-on-one, then if there are others that you know that understand and know this individual as well, but to be looking for that. And frankly, there's more of it today. We see more suicides today among young people, in part from what I'm reading in these various psychological journals, is there's a direct tie-in to, once again, social media, where people are isolated, they're alone, and they're getting information that's not helping them feel or do better, but it's taken them down a road of darkness that is only going to lead to trouble. So maybe as friends to talk to our friends, and if we don't want to do it one-on-one, go in a group and don't say, hi, we're having an intervention. Just say, we all got together. We want to talk to you about what's going on. How can we help? And maybe some outside professional help would help you here. If you see radical changes in people that concern you, not to say, oh, well, that's just they're growing up or whatever. Say, wait a minute, maybe there's a warning sign there. Maybe they're waving a flag that we should do something about.
Very
No, I think
helpful, Ken.
you're right there. Then I just hope we can effectively engage. And I live by my own mantra that I would rather apologize than have to eulogize. Meaning, if I just misunderstood something, hey, Ken, Ed, I apologize. But I would rather engage and be wrong than to not have the courage to engage in, oh my gosh, either Ken or Ed, it's just something really bad happened. And so that's the kind of person I am. And I know what I just said is very much personality dependent. I get that. And so some people feel they just cannot, it's not appropriate to engage. And I don't want to force anybody to do something they're not willing to do. That's not my point at all. And so this conversation may only have a positive impact with, who knows, 1-2% of the people who are listening. I do understand that.
Ron Cooper, thank you for bringing this terrible topic, but necessary topic for conversation.
No, thank you, Ed. I appreciate this opportunity. And one more time, I have said in the past, I believe we can overcome just about anything as long as we have a dialogue. Now, for those who choose not to dialogue, it becomes more difficult. But I'm a believer. If we can have a dialogue, we can overcome almost anything.
That those words from Martin Luther King ring out right there.
Right on target.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed and Ken.
Thank you, Ron. Ed, thank you too.
Be well.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.